Welcome to TechWire, a conversation about government, politics, and technology. My name is Christina Gagnier, and today I'm joined again by Carlos Ramos, the state CIO. Thank you for joining me again.
Nice to be back.
So this conference is really focusing on workforce development, but maybe not in the traditional sense, more so about how we get that next generation of millennials prepared to take leadership roles in IT and state government. Can you talk a little bit about what your department's doing in that respect?
Sure. So we are one of the key partners in putting on these sorts of events and partnering not just with eRepublic, who's the principal sponsor of this, but the rest of the private sector companies that are helping to plan out an agenda for the CIO Academy. So we gather the different state agencies and leaders there that can come and help put together an agenda that'll really shortcut the learning curve for these up and coming executives. So that's one thing that we're doing. In addition, through our Office of Professional Development, we're developing a number of different classes, a series of classes really aimed at, again, teaching the new up and coming leaders the experience of the folks that have been in the field for a long time. So as an example, we have a whole series of classes around the do's and don'ts of project management. We call that our Project Academy series. We have a leadership academy where we take a cohort of 25 to 30 of the bright up-and-comers in government from all different departments and put them through a year-long course of executive development. Again, just to try and get them up to speed and working at an executive level. And then beyond that, we're working with some of our local universities to put in place classes that are very particular to the needs of the state IT community. So some of them are leadership development curriculums. Some of them are around core skill sets that are really important, such as business analysis and how to use critical analysis in decision making. So we've got a number of different efforts underway.
You mentioned project management, and I know that your office is launching a quite large project in terms of reform when it comes to project management. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that STAR project.
Sure. So we're doing a couple of different things. So our STAR project, it's an acronym that stands for State Technology Approval Reform. And what it is we went back and looked at the processes that we use to actually take a technology initiative from the concept stage through the approval process and then through the procurement and then giving the green light to departments to go on and take on an initiative. And so what we found is that the processes were really long, they're very bureaucratic, and in some cases didn't really focus on the key components or elements that are going to dictate whether a project is successful or not. So we're changing the way we approach it. What we're doing is we're asking departments to do a lot more upfront planning, to do a lot more of focusing and building out the business case and understanding what's the business problem you're trying to resolve before we ever get into looking at things like technology as a solution for it. So the result of it is we're getting better planned projects, we're getting more buy-in from the business side of a department before a project gets launched. And by the time we go out to the marketplace with a proposal or for a request for assistance from the private sector, it's a much more baked product. They know what problems we're trying to solve, what business requirements we're going to ask them to help us put in place, and then we'll ask them, okay, so what are the technology solutions that we can evaluate? So it's a really good program. We've launched, we're launching it in stages. It's a 4-stage process, and the first 2 stages are ready to go and launched. And so we're excited about piloting it with a number of different initiatives so far.
And how will this new approach impact future programs? Like right now, I know CalCloud is one of the big focuses of your office, and it's going so very successfully. You have a lot of local government and agency buy-in to it. How will this new approach impact future projects like that?
I think it'll make projects like that more successful. One, because they'll be very carefully planned before we ever launch. It'll require more collaboration, not only within a department between the technology side of the house and the business side of the house, but in many cases, even across departments and across agencies, so that when we do take on an initiative, especially a statewide initiative, there's broad-based buy-in, there's a well-planned collaboration plan, and a very careful evaluation of the technical solutions. So I think in the long run, it'll make those projects go faster, go smoother, and be more successful.
So one component of this workforce development issue is really that leadership gap, making sure that we have those millennials ready to take those positions and giving them enough experience. The other component of that is getting people to apply and be part of public service and state government in the first place. How is your office going out and getting the best and the brightest here in California to make sure that the future of technology in California is indeed bright?
Sure, that's a great question. It's a big challenge, not only for us in the public sector, but just universally, is how do you get that next generation? How do you appeal to them? So our office is involved in a couple of ways. First and foremost, we're heavily involved in trying to get the word out about, hey, you can have a big impact on the world or in your state, in your community, through public service. And believe it or not, that's one of the items that really appeals to the millennial generation. They want to have an impact. Secondly, we're trying to embrace new technologies that enable and embrace the things that millennials are used to: social media, mobility, data analytics, mapping technologies, those sorts of app development. So trying to leverage technologies that are appealing to them and letting them know you can come in and from the very beginning make a big impact. And then finally, I think one of the things that's going to also be important is we're participating in efforts throughout government to try to modernize our processes for how you hire, how you recruit, and how you retain and train people. So I think between all of those things, we're going to do a pretty good job of bringing folks in. And the final thing that we're doing, which has actually helped us quite a bit, is we're going out to the private sector, because for years the private sector has come and recruited people out of public service. We're going to the private sector and saying, hey, maybe after you've had a career in private sector or after you've been in the private sector for a while, you want to take some of your skills and come into the public service. You can make a big impact. And beyond that, maybe you don't have to be living out of a suitcase or going back and forth. And believe it or not, it's work. We get a lot of interest from very skilled people in the private sector coming into government.
Well, that sounds like a great way to have that leadership continuity, but also bring in that fresh perspective that's often needed with these large government projects you're working on.
Well, and the other thing it does is it brings in innovation and maybe a different perspective, whether it's from the new generation of workers or for somebody who's been in the private sector and on the cutting edge. So bringing that to government too, and that's really helpful.
So speaking of innovation, every time you and I sit down, there's always something new that we're talking about. It's hard to believe it's the middle of the decade already.
Sure.
What's next for your office?
Well, one of the things that we're quite excited about is we're standing up this year a project management office. So one of the challenges that we've seen is that departments rely on technology quite a bit, and in many cases it's time for departments to either refresh the technology they have, or they're standing up new programs and having to bring in new technology systems. The challenge is not all departments have the skill set or the experience of running complex government technology projects. So one of the things that we're doing is we're standing up a project office that will run technology projects. We'll provide project management as a service to other public sector entities, and in a way to bring experienced, skilled project managers and project teams to help departments put in place the solutions that they need. So we're quite excited about it. We launched it earlier this year, just at least the initial stages of it, and we're hoping to build it out and really begin offering it as a service in the coming year.
Well, Carlos, as always, thank you for sitting down with me again and sharing your expertise and what's next for your department.
Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. And thank you to our audience for once again joining us in a conversation about government, politics, and technology.